Welcome back to a new video, party people. Sorry it's been a minute, but we are back at it again with a new video. Today's going to be a little bit of an easy day for these videos, for these two videos. The next ones are going to be a lot more challenges, fun, and running around, like we've been doing for most of my videos. This is my list of Halloween movies I like. So it's a top 10 list, but it's not worst to best. My list is kind of pretty much my own choosing, and I like them all either way. I know you all have your own lists of Halloween movies that you all would love to do, so put it in the community, man. I'll put a post out saying, hey, what's your favorite movie? And then also comment on this video if you want more of these, more movie videos. Just let me know. The first thing I'm going to say is I'll go from 10 to 1. This is not like best or worst. It's just how it is. I like the movies and they're all cool. Alright, let's get started. My number 10 movie, sorry, went straight to number 1. Number 10 is pretty much the, I really want to put this one at like number 10 for the third one of Blade. I really like the third movie of Blade. Also, we'll be like, not all these are going to be like 1 through 10 like movies of like franchises. They'll be from like, if I say like Blade, I'm not talking about the whole like movie franchise. I'll just say which one is the one I'm mostly putting in this slot. So number 10 is the third Blade Trinity movie. The reason why I like that one at number 10 is only because we have Ryan Reynolds and Wesley Snipes doing it together. But the downside is this is like during the years when Wesley Snipes and Ryan Reynolds weren't really getting along that much. So it kind of brought down the dialogue when Blade never really answered Ryan's character too much. So it kind of made it like this could have been a good, fun, like action. And of course, you know, Ryan, he has like good comedy sometimes. He has good comedy in his movies with his like fully just like mostly improvised stuff a lot, so I'll say that. So I say this one was kind of a little bit of a clash between two people where Wesley Snipes and Ryan just, like, they didn't like each other very much in this movie. But they still made it good. It's just some parts I wish they had talked to each other. It could have made a very good dialogue for leading into scenes and could have shown more of, like, what, maybe build more of a connection since Ryan is the one, like, talking in the background of the movie towards the end, so it would have been nice to see more of that. And then, I don't know, it would have been more nice to see, like, what would have happened more of for Dracula, because he did get, like, a few parts in it, and they kind of just focused on a main vampire group, which, not gonna lie, I get the group brought him back, but it was mostly Dracula who was the main bad guy, and he wasn't calling many of the shots. And it's like, I feel like since he's the one who's the main, like, vampire and everything, he should be the one to give the orders, honestly, because he's stronger, he can go out in the sun, he has all these extra powers that they don't. It's like, come on, it should have been like that. But enough said. I think it was still a good movie. The overall story was pretty good. You had a lot of fun, like, character building for them all together. And for the last one, just like Blade coming to grips with, like, oh yeah, the man who taught me how to be a vampire, Wesker, he died. He got to see him, like, go through that and figure out what to do next with his new group. He's still Blade, so the next one we are going to talk about is number 9. We are going to talk about The Wolfman. Not the old one, the new one. The one where I don't know the actor's name. I'm sorry. You'll see a picture on the screen for it. So, I would definitely say I like this movie because we get a lot of fun area. We get a lot of fun areas with this one. It follows like the old-fashioned Wolfman story of like people of a person turning into a werewolf, and it's basically just like a whole story of like solving a bunch of murders in this London town, figuring out like who's doing this, what killed uh, the main character's brother. Again, I'll show you pictures, and then it'll come more clearly, and it'll be better in description. But it's basically just like a good story of like this guy had to go back to his old house to figure out like what is going on in his town, to figure out what are these like these monsters that people are saying, and he eventually does track down with a group of people like what it is, but it scratches him and inflicts the werewolf curse on him, basically turning him into a werewolf during the night of the full moon. He doesn't know what he's been doing. He gets glimpses and everything, and then it falls into this of like a weird romantic love triangle, not love triangle, sorry, of a romance between his brother's wife. So they all work together. So he eventually does discover like where the curse came from and everything like that. It's basically just a whole like mystery solving werewolf hunt type of movie. It's cool. I liked it. It had a really cool fight scene between the father and the son, when the father just gave into his desire of being a werewolf. To the whole factual statement, I feel like that is just a really interesting story for him in general. Because like in the story, it's like both werewolves die, and just like it kind of makes you think like this is just like this werewolf curse is really like what they say it is. It's a curse, because no matter what, if he had lived and he had kept going on and on and on and trying to cope with his curse, the main character would have eventually been like distraught, been like his father, and just killed willy-nilly. And again, the whole story is just focused on like a brother recapping through his past and going into like his whole like world, going back into like his father's world and figuring out what happened to his mother, and finding out that his father turned into a werewolf and killed her. Again, it's a nice like, it's a very much like a revenge story for the main character when he becomes a werewolf. And it kind of makes the story more compelling with how it's through how the story is being told, more than just through me, because again, I'll show more pictures of what I'm talking about than anything through these movies. The next one is number 8. This is Dracula Untold. It's a cool story about Vlad the Impaler, where he was raised to be a soldier, and he gave him the nickname Vlad the Impaler because, again, he would put people on pikes, wooden stakes, and through the chest after they were dead. He was a very strong warrior, got his country into independence from another one, but things kind of take a turn for the worse from the country where they gave their children to where Vlad became a warrior. He decided not to do that, and he went to war with them. But since his country is so small and didn't have like a good enough resources to like survive this onslaught, he sought help from the first vampire, not Dracula, but the guy who would turn Vlad into Dracula. The guy basically told him, "Hey, I will give you some of my blood. You will take it. You'll become strong. You become powerful. But the second you drink mortal blood, you'll be under my rule, and I'll be free from this mountain within," I think he said, 3 days, if you drink my blood. Overall, story is really cool. Gives a lot of interesting dialect from like how like the myth of vampires got started, because again, the guy who was the original main vampire, he made a deal with the devil and turned him into this. But then the devil betrayed him, and he was sealed in a mountain. The whole story in itself is just like the story of Vlad trying to resist his urges to feed, but eventually he does feed, and he loses almost everything except for his son. So he does kill like the armed kind of like armed with his powers. He does kill a bunch of people and all the soldiers. He eventually does like create his own vampire army so they could lay waste to all the soldiers. With his abilities as a vampire, he can manipulate the darkness, he can turn himself into bats, he can control the clouds, make it thunderstorm so they can survive during the day. Because again, vampires are burned in sunlight. They're gonna burn. But besides from that, the overall the story's pretty good. You eventually, like, Dracula did try to end all the vampires he created, but one guy saved him, gave him some blood, and it flash forwards to modern day where Dracula is still around, living a somewhat normal, I'm not sure even normal life, but he is still like kind of trying to find his place in the world after living for so long. And it's kind of the thing, like as a vampire, you're immortal, and a lot of different stories tell like these curses are really bad. Some stories are good, and some stories tell like these curses of werewolves and vampires are all different because everything depends on the writer himself and what they decide to put for their stories. And a lot of the stories are pretty interesting. Not gonna lie, but they all have different things that work on together. But enough said. We'll go on to number 7 now, which is the Underworld movies. I say movies because I'll be mentioning probably number. There's a lot. I think I'll mention number 2, where we get to meet the two brothers who started the vampire and werewolf curses. This one, Underworld, is mainly focused on like a virus turning people into vampires and werewolves, literally making people become monsters in their own right. The werewolves turn into lichens, and the vampires are just vampires. But each one, like William, he's the first werewolf. He cannot turn human, but his brother can communicate with him and help him control it. His brother can turn into a full like vampire bat, which is cool. I really think that's an interesting design they put for that. And overall, they're both pretty powerful. You can't kill like William with a bullet made of silver. You can weaken him, but you can't kill him right out. And the whole story is just focused on like these two brothers on trying to figure out what to do, like with the lichens, and trying to help each other like become. Because when William bites you and turns you into a werewolf, you do not turn back human. There's one person who had the ability to turn human, and that was a guy born from a werewolf he was human. So overall, he was the only one to do it. Anyone he bit, they gained that ability as well, which spread out the term lichens. Lycanthropy is what it's technically called. But overall, the werewolves with William, anyone he still bit, he would kind of like control, and they would attack anyone for anything. They were just wild animals. Their human side was no longer there. For the vampires, for this second movie, it was really just like the vampires are now trying to kind of like, well, technically in the second movie, the father is trying to end his sons because the line of Corvinus is what it's called. They needed to end it to kill off of what they had created, because he is the main carrier of all the werewolf and vampires. He's the first immortal, and his two sons became vampire and werewolf. So quite literally, they're the only. You have a third one, technically a hybrid. He becomes half werewolf, half vampire. He's the only one who can technically kill close to them, except for the main character, who is also a vampire. She drinks some of the Corvinus strain and makes herself stronger to fight against these two. Overall, the second movie of Underworld is really cool. I like it. It has a lot of good points to add. It has a good building romance between the two main characters, and it gets a lot of good, the story explains itself, so you're not wondering like, what did I miss from the last movie if I didn't see it. It shows you the movie is highly addictive to watch. Hence why I'm recommending it. All these movies are really cool in their own way of explaining like monsters and everything. I know people are gonna say you've only mentioned vampires and werewolves. I know, I'm getting to the others. And I'm not mentioning just monsters, I'm mentioning like Halloween related movies that I would watch. Everybody else has their own list. Like I said, comment in the community and in the comments on what is your list. We're on to number 6. This one is more for the childhood version of me. I love the WWE Scooby-Doo movie special. I like both of them, but for the sake of this, I'm going to talk about probably the second one more. I love the Muscle Moto X like idea that they came up with, like the Undertaker, Scooby-Doo, and Shaggy facing the Demon Rig, and basically just like it's a whole basically like WWE wrestlers driving Hot Wheels cars kind of and just wrecking each other every single chance they get, because again they just attack each other. It's like they're doing what they were really like what they get paid to do just with vehicles, and it's really cool. We have so many stars there. We have The Undertaker, Triple H, Stephanie McMahon, Rusev, the Russian champion, and Dusty Rhodes, the Star Brothers, so many more. Paige, The Miz, I know, Sheamus, there we go. all these characters are really cool. Shaggy and all the Scooby-Doo gang getting together and trying to stop these guys from messing with like this whole, with everything going with the WWE. And like I said, this whole series was really cool. This whole movie was really cool to see because we get to see the Undertaker's famous wrestling moves as a video game. Because again, everybody, not video game, but you know what I mean, as a movie, because it's really cool to see him use those abilities in this sense without actually hurting anyone. Because again, WWE wrestling is not real. They don't ever actually hurt each other. So I just say that automatically. They are really cool. Getting to see all of this like fight and how they hype it up together, and I'm just like, this is so cool. It's awesome. But the next one is for number 5, and it is Van Helsing, the Hugh Jackman movie. And this one just takes a very good spin of combining Frankenstein, Dracula, and the wolf and the werewolf together with Van Helsing. The whole story is pretty much as it follows: Van Helsing hunting down monsters for the church and basically killing them, and basically becoming a wanted fugitive. Because again, during this time, if you were ever spotted like doing this kind of stuff, people would think you're just murdering people because no one sees the monsters. The whole story kind of follows of the line of killing Dracula, and Dracula trying to bring like his undead children to life in the movie, which he does try to do with Frankenstein's monster. But Frankenstein is eventually like found in the story with Van Helsing, and he tries to help him like keep him away from Dracula, to the extent like Van Helsing's main mission is to kill Dracula, but nothing can kill him. They've tried all the vampire weakness of metal stick, holy water, sunlight. He just heals. Everything does not like work on the king of vampires. But they eventually find out the one big weakness that Dracula has never told anyone and kept a secret for so long. The only one to figure out is the side character, her brother, and he basically becomes a werewolf, but he's also killed later in the movie too. But in general, the whole thing of what can kill Dracula is a werewolf, which also makes sense for a lot of the lore in like vampires versus werewolves. They don't like each other to begin with, so it's kind of like, what are you really gonna lose from that? The vampire and werewolves are all basically, the werewolves can't control themselves, and what Dracula does, he does figure out a way to control like the werewolves. But if one ever did like break free and try to attack him, he has a werewolf cure. Van Helsing does get bit and turned into a werewolf. By doing that, he basically didn't mean to, but it happened. And he said by the 12th bong on like the clock, he would be a full werewolf. But he did end up fighting Dracula, and this fight was absolutely magical. It was cool to see the transformations of both Dracula and Van Helsing, and just to see like the whole fight itself. To be fair, Dracula could have killed Van Helsing like a few times during that fight when he was like turning back to human when the clouds covered the moon, but he took too much time to monologue, and Dracula died for it. Kill Dracula, you kill a bunch of vampires as well, because it kind of follows that standpoint. He's the originator of vampires, so it makes sense that they all would die. But I would definitely say this movie is definitely a good one to watch. I recommend it to a lot. I recommend a lot of movies to people. I just overall like this one in number 5. So we're going on to number 4. And this one is going to be I, Frankenstein. I, Frankenstein is a movie with the guy who played Two-Face from The Dark Knight. And it was cool to see him again. I don't know the actors' names. I'm bad with names sometimes, unless I know them right away. The character overall for him is just like Frankenstein's monster. When he's brought back, when he's basically made, his master, his father, tries to kill him, but Frankenstein takes revenge, and well, Victor Frankenstein tries to chase him, but it doesn't happen. So what ends up happening is that Dracula, he goes into fighting. He eventually buries Victor and meets the gargoyles and demons, and he's thrust into a world with these guys of their war. Basically, a giant war of monsters where Frankenstein is the one trying to fight against the demons so they don't try to build an army like him and possess the dead to be invincible. Basically, the whole story revolves around cool gargoyles, monsters, and everything together. The whole story is pretty cool. I love the holy weapons they use and everything like that to defeat the demons. The gargoyle transformations are all really cool too. They have such cool designs for each one. Each one has their own individual weapons as well. Makes it very interesting to see what they do. And it gives a lot of like individuality to these characters as well. But yeah, that's kind of really it for that one. Number 3 is Twilight New Moon. Kind of just like a spin. This movie just like follows after the first one, and it's like where the werewolves first get introduced. I love that movie just for the werewolves themselves. It's nice to see like different stuff go on for these characters, because like you have just like a love triangle between a vampire, a human, or a werewolf. But Jake and Bella, they're kind of just more friends. But I love Jake and how he acts like when he's in his werewolf form with the Native Americans, as like how they do it through like the Native American lore. I don't really know that much about it, I'm not gonna lie, but I think the character development for those characters is pretty cool as well. Getting to see them transform and to see how they protect their lands from vampires is always interesting to me, because it shows that werewolves are not always monsters, they're people too. Number 2. We are going to go into, well, Scooby-Doo, the WWE wrestler one, the first one. I loved seeing John Cena, Sin Cara, Kane versus the Ghost Bear, and getting to see a lot of fun characters for that one. We get to have a good old-fashioned mystery-solving beatdown with WWE superstars. Getting to see them save the day and help out the WWE was cool. Getting to enjoy like Scooby and Shaggy wrestle Kane, and then getting to see Scooby-Doo fight against the Ghost Bear with a cage match with Kane. And it's really cool how they hype it up. It makes it feel like it's like you're watching a TV show sometimes, but that's how WWE always does it. Overall, this movie was cool. I have no regrets to it. It was so awesome. Number 1, the last one, you guys, and that is the... I have to feel like I go with Underworld again. I like those movies a lot. I think the third one is probably the best. We're getting to see the werewolves rise up against the when they first rise up against every single one of the vampires, and when they do, they eventually try to make themselves stronger by taking the blood of the hybrid and making himself stronger. So, well, no, that's number 4. Sorry, number 3 is where you first see them rise up and become a pack and learn how to work together. And I love the love story between a vampire and a werewolf, between Lucian and the vampire daughter. She is cool. She's very strong and powerful. And he's also pretty cool as well. He's basically just learned how to master his werewolf powers and basically proved to be an effective leader and an ultimate like warrior. But other than that, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and like and subscribe. Peace.